just want to start by saying that you should be absolutely ashamed of yourself for the devastation that you have caused to communities all over the world. Already, you are responsible for so much death and suffering.
In the run-up to the panel on the day, I was shaking and I was having palpitations all morning, like a completely new level of anxiety. But when Ben Van Beurden walked backstage and I saw him with my eyes, I knew that this was something that I was able to do.
No matter what he says today, remember, Shell has spent millions covering up the warnings from climate scientists, bribing politicians and even paying soldiers to kill Nigerian activists fighting against them. All whilst rebranding to make it look as though they care and that they have the intention of changing.
Why I got so emotional and upset during my speech is I genuinely believe that Ben Van Beurden is one of the most responsible people for the climate crisis in the world. And as I said, so many people are already dying disproportionately in the global south due to the climate crisis.
This is not an abstract issue, and you are directly responsible for those deaths.
People like him, largely older white men in power, like to pretend that the climate crisis is a future issue. This is not a future issue, and it's coming, even in the global north, a lot sooner than we think. In the last few years, we've seen increasing weather-related incidents that are so terrifying all over the world, not just in the global south. But something that is so important is that this is killing people all over the world. The International Energy Agency has just earlier this year stated that in order to stay below 1.5 degrees of global temperature rise, there must be no new fossil fuel investments anywhere in the world. The climate crisis is a really complex global issue that needs global solutions, and it needs world leaders from all over the world really coming together and think, how can we tackle this, and really feeling the fact that every day that they do not act is a day that will cause more people to die from the climate crisis in the future. And I don't think that we have seen those radical commitments anywhere in the world. Climate crisis and racial injustice and class injustice, all of these systemic issues, systemic oppressions, have the same root cause, and that is capitalism. Systemically oppressed groups have been fighting capitalism for centuries. There's this idea that we need to give these people a voice, but the fact of the matter is these people have a voice and they have been fighting for much longer than we have. We just haven't been listening to them. When we think about Indigenous people, people of colour, people from groups who have faced the most systemic oppression, in my view, they are the ones who understand best what needs to change in this world, because they have experienced true suppression and violence at the hands of capitalism and the powers that be. We need to actively listen to them, and by listening, I mean actually understanding what they need and acting on that.
I hope that you know that we will never forget what you have done and what Shell has done. I hope you know that as the climate crisis gets more and more deadly, you will be to blame, and I will not be sharing this podium with you anymore.
After my confrontation with Ben Van Beurden, a few of the older women at the summit came up to me and they said that I should never get emotional in front of a powerful man and that I shouldn't have cried. But I really disagree with this, because I never want to censor myself for the purpose of looking powerful in the eyes of someone like Ben Van Beurden. And I think it's also important for people to see that emotion and to understand that the climate crisis is something that merits for us to be really upset and to be really emotionally invested in it, because it's such a serious issue and it's not going to go away unless we break down this system where people in power are completely unwilling to act and are actively destroying our futures. I think it's important to note that hope is not something that you actively have or don't have. It's something that you can create by being in spaces where you know that you're actively trying to push for a better world. And even though we live under such an oppressive system, you know, like, that's not forever, and we can rise up and fight against that. We just need more people to get involved and to realise that they have a voice and that they have power to make change.
Keep the carbon in the